We know things have gotten extraordinarily terrible at Microsoft, with the company basically serving at the altar of wokeness, whether it is promoting the LGBTQ plus agenda with Halo or literally putting out a guideline showing that you have to bow down to the DEI agenda. They have a whole framework on how you should make games within that framework. We know that it's really bad, but we are now finding out that a lot of it started in the late 1990s, early 2000s. Age of Empires 2 developer recently revealed that their Proto-Woke policies go back to the expansion, the Conquerors expansion for Age of Empires 2. I wrote this up over on phantompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. So Sandy Peterson, he's a developer who worked on Age of Empires 2, Halo Wars, Doom 2, and others, recently shared how Microsoft had embraced Proto-Woke policies in the 90s and cajoled him into making a Korean faction in an attempt to play the DEI representation game. Peterson posted this over on X. In 1999, I was assigned to design the expansion pack to Age of Empires 2. I chose the Conquerors as the theme, and wishing to have 4 civs as we had on Rise of Rome, I chose the Spanish, the Aztecs, the Huns, and the Mayans. The project went ahead extremely well. We were almost completely finished, 5 weeks ahead of schedule as of January 2000. I was excited to move on to Age of Empires 3. Then Microsoft called and we had an important conference call. He continued saying, Microsoft said, we want you to add Koreans to the Conquerors pack. I said, Koreans? Greatly to their credit, we're not Conquerors. They stayed in their lane. While they're cool, they don't fit the Conquerors theme. Here was Microsoft's argument. StarCraft sold 3 million copies in Korea. Here was my counter argument, which seemed pretty valid to me. StarCraft doesn't have any Koreans in it, so those sales had zero to do with a Korean civ. Microsoft, but StarCraft sold 3 million copies in Korea. I could see where this was going. Once someone simply repeats a previous argument, it's clear they are no longer functioning from logic or intelligence. So this is the argument that the Marvel Cinematic Universe was giving for why they had to embrace representation, because they were going to be leaving money on the table, according to former Senior Vice President Victoria Alonso. That's why they had to do all of the representation. They had to basically race swap all of the characters. They had to bring up all of these obscure characters that no one really cared about at all. And they were saying that they were going to be leaving money on the table because other people were going to be doing that stuff. So they needed to do it before DC was going to do that. And they were basically just ignoring the fact that they built the Marvel Cinematic Universe on like the core Avengers, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, and the Hulk, right? We're just completely ignoring that and how they like built up this massive storyline, this massive franchise that had spanned like 20 movies or whatever by the time we got to Infinity War and Endgame, and they had to embrace the DEI representation agenda, or they were going to somehow lose money. Well, we've seen them embrace that agenda, and what happened? They lost. They're losing money hand over fist. Captain America: Brave New World is the second worst performing film, just came out this year. The only film that did worse than it was The Marvels, right? You want to talk about representation not working. Those are two big examples there. Anyways, but like we see this. This is the argument that they make. This is the woke argument that we've seen that they make. Microsoft was doing this back in the late 90s, early 2000s with Age of Empires 2. So Peterson then concluded his thread saying, so I went ahead and we crammed in the Korean civ in the last 5 weeks we had. No, Microsoft didn't give us any extra time. We made what apparently were 3 mistakes. We used the wrong art for the turtle ships. We used a legitimate source, but apparently Koreans didn't like that source. We named the Sea of Japan the Sea of Japan. It's called that in every nation except one. Yup. And we said there was a Japanese invasion of Korea from 1592 to 1598, which for some reason in 2000 was controversial. My Microsoft representative in Korea actually got arrested and detained for a while. And in the end, we didn't sell 3 million copies of Age of Empires 2 in Korea after all. Shock. So surprised. So surprised. It doesn't work. Don't get me wrong, Age of Empires 2 sold super well, and so did the Conquerors expansion, but StarCraft was impossible to topple from its Korean throne. So that is the end of his thread, clearly noting that Microsoft had embraced this proto-woke policy back in the late 90s, early 2000s. They're embracing this representation agenda, thinking that if we just represent people, that will somehow allow us to get more sales. And lo and behold, it doesn't work. It didn't work then, but they're still doing it 20 years later. They're still doing this crap 20 years later and trying to tell us that it's somehow things have changed. No, it doesn't work. It just does not work time and time and time and time again. So Peterson isn't the only person to make this claim about Microsoft. There's a fantastic interview that Andrew Chapados conducted with legendary Halo composer Marty O'Donnell last June. And O'Donnell told Chapados this: I started seeing it a little bit even during our Halo 2, which goes back quite a ways. We were making Halo 2 in 2002, 2003, which was close enough after 9/11. If you know the story of Halo, it's about this group of religious zealots that essentially will commit suicide to keep their religion going. That's the characters we had for the Covenant. That started making Microsoft a little bit nervous because they felt like there could be some backlash from the Muslim community in the Middle East, that maybe this could be seen as Islamophobic. All of a sudden, we were being asked to be very careful about some names of people or references or phrases and things like that. I started seeing that and I thought, well, that's not necessarily unreasonable because we weren't trying to do some sort of allegory about the political situation in the world that had to do with jihadists and all the rest of it. But then he said, maybe you know this story, but one of our main characters, the Arbiter, was not the Arbiter during the whole time we were making Halo 2. The character's name was the Dervish, and we had recorded all the voice. I directed all the actors, and everybody was using the term Dervish. And then we found out that this could be seen as an insult because there is an Islamic figure known as Dervishes. So we had to change it. We were forced to change that name to a different name, so we came up with the Arbiter. I was never happy about it. I thought this is an artistic choice. This is what we had from the beginning. We were not making any sort of political or religious comment. We had tons of religious imagery, the Ark, Halo, the Covenant. All of these things are sort of imbued with religious terminology, so I didn't see why the Dervish was a problem, but we were forced to change that. I could see that the bigger the producer, the more fingers would be in the pie trying to mess with things. So even on Halo in the early 2000s, Halo 2, Marty O'Donnell was saying that they had embraced this kind of woke DEI representation ideology. And obviously, it's just gotten worse. It's just gotten worse. And it's been at this company for a very, very long time because it's 2025 now. And we're looking at things back in 2000. That was 25 years ago. And I would not be surprised if we start seeing more and more come out even before this because this ideology hasn't just it didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It has been slowly creeping, taking over these institutions, working its way through these institutions where now the people that are in charge kind of control, or seemingly they obviously were controlling it back then in 2000, but now they have even more control and there's even more people there. And that's frankly why you have to really get rid of a lot of these people because they are so ideologically captured and institutionally captured. And we know all the propaganda that these corporations have been pushing on their employees and things like that. So it's really, really, really bad. But we can change this. We can get rid of this stuff. Obviously, there is a good up-and-coming indie scene that is growing. People are making their own games. A lot of people aren't even playing a lot of the new stuff anymore. I think there was some study that came out that said almost 90% of people who are playing video games now aren't playing new video games. They're playing all their old stuff. So that is really good to see on that front as well, because a lot of this new stuff, it's just even worse than what they were doing back in the day. But this stuff has been around for a while. That's why I wanted to bring this up. It's not going to go away anytime soon. We are in for a battle. Anyone telling you that this is just going to die overnight is lying to you. We have to be prepared to fight the long fight. And that is what I am prepared to do. And I hope that you guys will join me in this fight. We will continue to call it out here. We will continue to fight against this. We will continue to advocate for this ideology to be removed from our culture at large, and especially in video games. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.